The distant hum of machinery and the soft glow of console lights filled the control room of Outpost Delta, a remote human station perched on the icy moons of Neptune. Captain Elias Ward leaned back in his chair, monitoring the deep space scanners that swept the void beyond. Beside him, Lieutenant Marco Silva adjusted the frequency dials, a frown etched across his face. "Anything on the long range, Marco?" Elias asked, his voice echoing slightly in the compact space. "Quiet as always, Captain. Just the usual background noise and—" Marco paused, squinting at the readings. "Wait, that's odd. We've got something large coming in at Sector 9. Elias straightened, his attention snapping to the screen. Define large. Size of a cruiser, maybe bigger, and it's not transmitting any IFF codes. Marco's hands flew over the controls, refining the image. Elias's heart raced as the shape clarified. A sleek, dark hull, bristling with what looked unmistakably like weaponry. "Battle stations," he commanded, his voice calm but firm. "Alert Earth Command. We might have company." Within minutes, the outpost was a flurry of activity. Crew members secured their stations as the alien ship approached. Through the viewport, the vessel was visible now, an ominous silhouette against the stark white of Neptune. "Communications, hail them," Elias ordered. Communication Officer Jensen, a wiry man with sharp eyes, nodded and began broadcasting. "Unidentified vessel, this is Captain Elias Ward of the United Earth Outpost Delta. Please identify yourself and state your intentions." They waited in tense silence, but only static greeted them. "Try again, Jensen, and patch it through the main speakers," Elias instructed, a sinking feeling in his gut. Jensen repeated the message. This time, a response crackled through the speakers, a series of harsh, guttural sounds that were clearly not human. "Recording that," Jensen murmured, trying to isolate the audio. "No idea on the language. It doesn't match anything in our database." Elias nodded. "Keep trying. Marco, predictions on their trajectory?" "They're holding steady. Looks like they're aiming to—" "Captain, they're on a direct course for us." Before Elias could respond, a bright streak of light flashed from the alien ship, heading straight toward the outpost. The impact shook the station, alarms blaring. "We've been hit," shouted Silva. "Shields held, but that was a warning shot. They have us in weapons lock." Elias's mind raced. They were outgunned and outmatched. "Options?" Marco looked grim. "Fight or flight, Captain. We can return fire, but if they hit us with something stronger—" "No," Elias cut in. "Prepare the evacuation shuttles. We need to protect the crew, and send all our data to command. They need to see this." As the crew scrambled to obey, Elias stayed by the viewport, watching the alien ship. It loomed larger now, a menacing presence that promised destruction. "Evacuation shuttles ready," Silva reported, his face tense. Elias gave a firm nod. "Good. Get everyone to the shuttles. I'll cover the rear, make sure everyone gets out." Silva clapped him on the shoulder, a wordless gesture of solidarity, before turning to assist with the evacuation. As the last of his crew headed to safety, Elias took one last look at the approaching enemy. They had disturbed the quiet sector of space where humans dared to venture, and now they faced an unknown threat head-on. With a grim set to his jaw, Elias followed his crew, determined to get them to safety and warn Earth. This was only the beginning, and humanity would need to be ready. The chaos of Outpost Delta's evacuation still echoed in Captain Elias Ward's mind as he approached Earth aboard the last shuttle. Beside him, Lieutenant Marco Silva reviewed the data they had managed to send before fleeing. Earth's Defense Command had been alerted, but Elias knew the real storm was yet to come. As the shuttle docked at the United Defense Command headquarters in Geneva, a swarm of military personnel and government officials met them. Among them was General Helen Ramirez, the head of the Earth Defense Forces, who greeted Elias with a firm handshake. "Captain Ward, I wish it were under better circumstances, but your report demands immediate action," General Ramirez said, her tone urgent. "Come, we have a meeting set with the Defense Council." Elias and Marco followed her through the bustling corridors of the command center to a large conference room. The air was thick with tension as they entered. The room was filled with high-ranking officials, all waiting for Elias to speak. Elias took a deep breath and began. "Approximately 14 hours ago, we encountered an alien vessel near Neptune. Attempts to communicate were met with hostility, and we were forced to evacuate after a direct attack on Outpost Delta." Screens around the room flickered to life, displaying images and data from the outpost's final transmission. Murmurs filled the room as the severity of the situation sank in. General Ramirez addressed the council. "We need a plan of action. It's clear these aliens view us as a threat, or at least a target. We need to prepare for a possible invasion. Captain Ward, your thoughts? Elias nodded, his resolve hardening. We should consider this an act of war. Our first step is to strengthen our defenses across all outposts and prepare our fleet for engagement. We can't wait for them to come to us. Agreed, Marco chimed in, and we should work on breaking down their communication. We recorded their language. If we can crack it, we might gain some insight into their intentions, or even find a way to negotiate. A tactical advisor, Colonel Zhang, leaned forward. What about offensive capabilities? We should think about taking the fight to them, disrupt their momentum. General Ramirez considered this, then nodded. Captain Ward, I'm assigning you to lead a task force. You'll have command of our best ships and crews. Your objectives will be to safeguard our space, gather intelligence, and prepare for a counteroffensive if necessary. Elias felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Understood, General. We'll begin preparations immediately. As the meeting adjourned, Elias and Marco set to work. They coordinated with naval architects, weapons specialists, and intelligence officers, piecing together a fleet that could potentially stand against the alien aggressors. Later, as the command center's lights dimmed and the staff thinned, Elias stood before a large window overlooking Earth. The blue marble seemed serene from space, unaware of the danger hurtling towards it. Marco joined him, handing him a cup of coffee. We've got a lot of work ahead, Elias. You think we're ready for this? Elias took a sip, his gaze not leaving the planet below. We have to be, Marco. It's not just about defending our home now. It's about proving that humanity will not fold under threat. We will fight. And with that, the stage was set. As the Earth spun silently below, the gears of war began to turn, driven by the unwavering determination of its people. Elias knew the road ahead would be fraught with danger, but he also knew that humanity would rise to meet it, as it always had. Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge of the USS Vanguard, the flagship of Earth's newly formed defense fleet. The cold metal underfoot seemed to thrum with energy as the ship prepared for a daring mission. Around him, the crew operated with a quiet efficiency, the tension palpable in the air. Captain, all ships report ready, Lieutenant Marco Silva announced, approaching with a digital clipboard in hand. The tactical overlay on the screen before them showed their fleet's positions, hidden within the shadow of Jupiter's moons. Elias nodded, his gaze fixed on the tactical display. Very well. Initiate Phase 1. Let's see if we can't surprise our visitors. The operation was risky, a direct assault on an alien squadron that had been patrolling the edges of the solar system. Intelligence suggested they were a forward unit, possibly a scouting force. This was humanity's chance to test the alien capabilities, and their own. Phase 1 initiated, sir, Marco confirmed. The fleet is moving into attack formation. The Vanguard and its sister ships began a slow, stealthy advance towards the unsuspecting alien squadron. The human ships used the massive gas giant's electromagnetic interference to mask their approach, closing in on their targets with lethal intent. Distance to target? Elias asked, his voice steady. 5,000 kilometers and closing, replied Ensign Lila Cho from navigation. Elias turned to his weapons officer. Lieutenant Bashir, prepare all torpedo bays. Target their engines and weapons systems. I want them crippled, not destroyed. We need to capture one if possible. Aye, Captain. Torpedoes armed and ready, Lieutenant Bashir responded, his fingers dancing across the weapons console. The silence that followed was suffocating as the distance closed. Finally, the order was given. Fire! Torpedoes streaked across the space between the human fleet and the alien ships. The sudden barrage caught the aliens off guard, and several of their vessels were hit, erupting in plumes of fire and debris. Direct hits on targets 1 and 3. Target 2's weapon systems are disabled, Bashir reported triumphantly. Elias allowed himself a brief smile. Good shooting. Marco, signal all ships, move in for capture. As the fleet maneuvered to surround the crippled alien vessel, a flurry of activity ensued. Boarding parties prepared for deployment, ready to seize control of the alien technology. Captain, we're receiving a distress signal from the alien ship. Jensen, the communications officer, suddenly called out. Can we decode it? Elias asked, stepping closer. It's the same language as before, sir. I'll send it to the linguistics team, but it sounds frantic. Keep me updated. Marco, status of the boarding party? Ready to deploy on your command, Marco confirmed, checking his data pad. Deploy, Elias ordered without hesitation. And tell them to be careful. We don't know what they're walking into. The next hours were a blur of activity. The human boarding party faced little resistance from the dazed alien crew, who seemed unprepared for the ferocity and resolve of their human adversaries. Once the ship was secured, Elias himself boarded the vessel, accompanied by a team of scientists and engineers eager to learn from the advanced alien technology. The eerie, otherworldly interior of the ship was a stark contrast to the familiar designs of human craft. "Remarkable," murmured Dr. Emily Singh, one of the leading engineers, as she examined an alien control panel. "Their propulsion technology is decades ahead of ours, Captain. This could change everything." Elias watched her work, a sense of achievement mixed with the stark reality of the ongoing threat. "Let's make sure it changes things in our favor, Doctor." Back on the Vanguard, as they towed the captured alien ship back to Jupiter's orbit, Marco approached Elias. "A successful mission, Captain. But this is just the beginning, isn't it?" "It is," Elias agreed, looking out at the stars. "We've shown that we can hit back. Now we need to prepare for their response. They won't underestimate us again." And with that, the crew of the Vanguard set their sights on the challenges ahead, knowing that the path to securing humanity's place among the stars was only going to get tougher. The captured alien vessel, now docked securely within the expansive hangar of the USS Vanguard, had provided humanity with invaluable insights. Captain Elias Ward, along with his closest advisors, including Lieutenant Marco Silva, reviewed the latest findings. The interior of the vessel was alien indeed, with technology that blended mechanical and organic elements in ways previously unimaginable to human engineers. Dr. Singh's preliminary report suggests their propulsion isn't just advanced, it's revolutionary, Marco noted, scrolling through the digital report. "She believes with enough study we could adapt some of this tech for our own uses." Elias nodded, his mind racing with the possibilities. "It's a game changer, but we need more. We need to understand not just their technology, but their strategies, their plans. We're going blind into this war." "And you think infiltrating their space is the way to do it?" Marco asked cautiously. "It's the only way," Elias asserted. "We grab what intel we can and get out before they know we were ever there." Plans for the covert mission began immediately. The USS Stealth, aptly named for its advanced cloaking capabilities, was chosen for the task. Captain Ward, Marco, and a select team of specialists prepared for what was arguably the most dangerous mission of the conflict thus far. As they neared the boundary of alien-controlled space, the Stealth lived up to its name, slipping past enemy sensors like a ghost. The tension on board was palpable. Every crew member knew the stakes were life or death. "Entering their outer system now," whispered the pilot, Lieutenant Jenna Miles, her eyes locked on the spatial readings. "Keep us cloaked and maintain silent running," Elias instructed, his voice low. "Marco, what's the status on the interception module?" "Ready to deploy. We'll start pulling their communications as soon as we're within range," Marco replied, adjusting the settings on a complex-looking device filled with flickering lights and shifting symbols. The Stealth maneuvered closer, carefully avoiding the usual patrol routes that Dr. Singh had mapped out from the captured ship's navigational data. Once in position, Marco activated the interception module, and the alien communications network lit up on their screens. Jensen, who had insisted on joining the mission given his expertise in languages, began decoding the flood of information. "There's a lot here: logistics, patrol schedules, and... Wait, this looks like a strategic map. They have a whole network of bases." "Can you pinpoint command centers, supply routes?" Elias asked, leaning over his console. "Working on it," Jensen muttered, his fingers flying over the digital translator. Hours turned into days as the Stealth remained hidden in the shadows of an alien moon, gathering as much data as possible. Finally, with a comprehensive map of the alien command structure and a better understanding of their fleet movements, Elias decided it was time to pull back. "We've got what we need. Let's not push our luck any further," he declared. "Jenna, plot a course back to Earth. Marco, make sure all data is secured and encrypted." The return journey was tense, with the entire crew holding their breath as they retraced their steps through enemy territory. The Stealth remained undetected, and when they finally emerged into friendly space, the relief was almost overwhelming. Back on Earth, the information they brought back was a treasure trove. Strategic meetings buzzed with new plans and possibilities. Humanity was no longer fighting in the dark. They now had a clear view of the enemy's infrastructure. Elias stood before the Defense Council, presenting the findings. "With this intelligence, we can hit them where it hurts. We've already started planning targeted strikes on their key bases." General Ramirez nodded approvingly. Excellent work, Captain. This could be the turning point. As the council dispersed, Marco approached Elias, clapping him on the back. Never thought I'd be part of a spy mission in alien space, he said, a grin spreading across his face. Let's hope it's the first and last time, Elias replied, returning the smile. Now let's get ready. We've opened a window of opportunity, and we need to act fast. Humanity was now on the offensive, armed with knowledge and ready to challenge their foes on a new level. The war was far from over, but for the first time, Elias felt they had a real fighting chance. In the bustling operations room of Earth's Defense Command, Captain Elias Ward oversaw the flurry of activity as strategic plans were redrawn with the new intelligence. High-resolution maps of alien territories, along with detailed logs of their fleet movements, adorned every screen. General Ramirez presided over the briefing, pointing out key targets that could potentially cripple the alien forces. Captain Ward, the information you've brought back is invaluable, General Ramirez stated, her eyes scanning the room filled with military strategists and technical experts. We now have the opportunity to not just defend, but to take the offensive. Elias nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. We need to strike quickly before they can regroup or reinforce. I propose simultaneous strikes on these 3 bases. He indicated the targets on the map, highlighting their strategic importance in the enemy's supply chain. Agreed, replied Colonel Zhang, the tactical advisor. We'll need to mobilize the fleet and coordinate with our orbital platforms. Every second will count. The room buzzed with orders as preparations began. Meanwhile, a parallel project was taking shape in a secure facility not far from the command center. Scientists and engineers, inspired by the alien technology from the captured vessel, were developing a superweapon capable of massive destruction, intended for use against the alien homeworld should negotiations fail. Dr. Emily Singh, leading the project, briefed Elias on their progress. The weapon is based on the propulsion technology we recovered. It's capable of delivering a devastating energy pulse that can disrupt atomic structures. We're close to a prototype. Elias, although uneasy about the potential for such a weapon, understood its necessity. Keep me updated, Doctor. Let's hope we won't need it, but prepare as if we will. As Earth's forces mobilized for the planned strikes, alien activity suggested they were unaware of the compromised security of their network. The human fleet, now more confident and strategically informed, moved into position. Ships cloaked with advanced technology borrowed from the enemy slipped through space, undetected. The attack was launched with clinical precision. Torpedoes and energy pulses lit up the void as Earth's forces struck the alien bases. The initial reports were of overwhelming success. 2 bases were incapacitated, and the 3rd suffered significant damage. However, the victory was short-lived. Reports came in of a massive counterattack being mobilized against Earth. The alien forces, it seemed, were far from defeated and had been guarding their most significant military capabilities for such a scenario. Elias, back on the bridge of the USS Vanguard, felt the stakes rise. Prepare all hands. This is going to be a battle like we've never seen. Marco, ensure all data from this attack is analyzed. We need to know what we're up against. Yes, Captain, Marco replied, his eyes grim but determined. As the alien fleet approached, a series of urgent meetings were held. It was decided that humanity would not wait passively to be attacked. Instead, Earth's fleet would meet the alien forces head-on, using the element of surprise from their new strategic insights. The ensuing battle was fierce and unforgiving. Earth's fleet, empowered by superior intelligence and driven by the urgency of survival, managed to hold off the alien onslaught. Every ship, every soldier fought with the understanding that the survival of their world hung in the balance. In the aftermath, with many ships lost but the enemy repelled, Elias addressed his weary crew. We've held them off for now, but this war is far from over. We must continue to adapt, to learn, and to fight. Back at command, General Ramirez greeted Elias with a mix of relief and resolve. You've done well, Captain. Thanks to you, we fight on equal footing now. Let's make sure it wasn't in vain. Prepare for the next phase. This war is ours to win. As Elias left the briefing room, the weight of leadership and the next steps pressed heavily on him. Humanity had shown it could not only defend, but also challenge a formidable enemy. The next moves would determine the fate of their world. The solar system was now a scattered battlefield, with Earth's forces stretched thin across various fronts. From the red dunes of Mars to the stark lunar plains, humanity's resolve was tested under relentless alien assaults. Aboard the USS Vanguard, Captain Elias Ward monitored the unfolding chaos, his expression a mask of focus and unyielding determination. Sir, Mars Defense Unit is holding, but casualties are mounting. The alien forces are pushing hard on the northern sector, reported Lieutenant Marco Silva, his voice tight with concern. Elias nodded grimly. Reinforce their position with the 4th Squadron from Phobos. They can't get a foothold on Mars. As Marco relayed the orders, a new alert flashed on the central screen. The moon's Tranquility Base was under a heavy siege, threatening the critical research and supply outposts there. Divert the 2nd orbital from Earth. I want them on the moon within the hour. Elias commanded, his strategic mind mapping out the necessary movements like a grand chess master. The battles were fierce and unforgiving. On Mars, the red soil was churned into a thick haze of dust and debris, obscuring the frantic skirmishes below. Meanwhile, the moon's gray surface was lit by the continuous flashes of energy weapons and explosions, casting long, eerie shadows from the craters. Within the command center of the Vanguard, Elias received a direct feed from the front lines. The face of Colonel Freeman, commander of the lunar forces, appeared on the screen, his helmet smeared with dust. Captain Ward, we're holding, but barely. Their new wave seems endless. We need more firepower here. Freeman's voice crackled through the static. Elias's response was swift and decisive. Support is en route, Colonel. Hold your position. We're not letting Tranquility fall. As the Vanguard coordinated these critical defensive maneuvers, intelligence reports indicated a massive buildup of alien forces near Saturn, possibly gearing for a decisive strike. Elias realized that while they were defending, they needed to think offensively to disrupt the enemy's momentum. Marco, gather the fleet commanders. It's time we took the fight to them. Prepare a strike on their assembly area near Saturn, Elias stated, turning the tide of his strategy. The preparation was intense. Elias personally oversaw the fleet's reorganization, pulling in ships from less critical posts to form a formidable assault force. The stakes were high, and the risk was enormous, but so was the potential to cripple a significant portion of the alien armada. The fleet set out under a veil of stealth technology, bypassing skirmishes and debris fields. As they approached Saturn, the rings provided a spectacular yet perilous backdrop for the impending conflict. Elias stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the forward screens as they closed in on the target. All ships, this is Captain Ward. Engage at maximum range. Target their capital ships first. We have one shot at this. The battle erupted into a maelstrom of fire and light. Earth's ships unleashed everything they had, torpedoes and energy beams slicing through the void. The alien armada, caught off guard, scrambled to respond. After hours of relentless combat, the tide began to turn. The alien forces, though superior in number, found themselves outmaneuvered and outgunned by the human fleet's desperate, yet calculated offensive. We're breaking through their lines, Marco shouted over the din of battle, a note of triumph in his voice. Elias allowed himself a brief nod of satisfaction, watching as the alien ships began to retreat. Pursue them. Make sure they don't regroup. This is our chance to push them back for good. As the battle near Saturn raged on, back on Earth and across human outposts, news of the engagement brought a renewed sense of hope. Under Captain Ward's leadership, humanity was not just surviving, it was fighting back with a ferocity that matched their desperation. After their decisive victory near Saturn, the morale among Earth's forces soared. Captain Elias Ward, however, knew that the war was far from over. The alien threat loomed larger than ever, and the stakes continued to rise. With Earth's newfound offensive capabilities, the time had come for an even bolder move, one that could potentially end the conflict. In the strategic planning room aboard the USS Vanguard, Elias convened with his top advisors, including Lieutenant Marco Silva and General Ramirez, who was present via a secure video link. The walls of the room were lined with digital maps displaying the alien and human territories. Captain, the superweapon Dr. Singh has been developing is ready for testing. Based on the propulsion technology from the captured alien vessel, it has the potential to deliver a devastating blow, General Ramirez informed him. Elias nodded, understanding the gravity of the decision he faced. We've been reactive for too long. It's time to take the initiative and strike at their heart. Marco, prepare the fleet. We're heading to the alien homeworld. The plan was set into motion with meticulous care. The human fleet, reinforced and reinvigorated from their recent victories, assembled for the journey to the alien homeworld. The superweapon, a massive device capable of unleashing untold destruction, was mounted on the USS Deliverance, the fleet's most robust and heavily guarded battleship. As they journeyed through space, tension aboard the fleet was palpable. Crews worked tirelessly to maintain the ships, while combat teams drilled for possible scenarios they might face upon arriving at their destination. "Entering the outer reaches of the alien system," announced the navigator of the Vanguard as they neared their target. The alien homeworld loomed ahead, a planet shrouded in swirling clouds, its defenses on high alert. Elias stood on the bridge, his gaze fixed on the view screen. "All ships, this is Captain Ward. Maintain formation and be ready for heavy resistance." The alien fleet, massive in its scope, moved to intercept. Battles erupted across the expanse of space, a deadly dance of maneuvering ships and exploding artillery. The human fleet pushed forward relentlessly, carving a path through the enemy lines toward the planet. "Deliverance, you're clear to proceed. Deploy the weapon," Elias commanded, his voice resolute over the comm. The USS Deliverance edged closer to the planet under the cover of the fleet's defensive fire. With a solemn sense of duty, the crew activated the superweapon. A deep hum resonated through space as the device charged, gathering energy before releasing a brilliant pulse of light that streaked towards the alien homeworld. The impact was immediate and catastrophic. The pulse hit the planet's surface, unleashing a chain reaction that ripped through the atmosphere. From space, the crew of the Vanguard watched as storms erupted across the alien planet, its surface heaving in turmoil. "Direct hit, Captain. The planet's core is destabilizing," reported Marco, his voice a mix of awe and horror at the power they had unleashed. Elias watched, a heavy weight settling in his chest. This was not a victory to celebrate. It was a stark reminder of the horrors of war, the lengths to which humanity had been pushed, and the dire consequences of their actions. The alien fleet, seeing the devastation of their homeworld, ceased their advance, some ships going dark, others retreating in disarray. The battle slowed to a haunting lull. "Recall all ships. It's over," Elias finally said, turning away from the view screen. His heart was heavy with the cost of their victory, a term that now seemed too simple for the complex tapestry of loss and necessity. Back on Earth, the news of the conflict's end spread quickly. Humanity had secured its survival, but at a profound cost. As Elias and his crew returned home, questions about the future lingered. What would come next for humanity? Now a formidable power in a galaxy that had just witnessed its capability for both creation and destruction. In the silent corridors of the Vanguard, Elias contemplated these questions, knowing that the answers would shape the next chapter of human history. The journey back to Earth was somber. Captain Elias Ward stood in the observation deck of the USS Vanguard, staring into the vastness of space, the stars unblinkingly witnessing the return of a fleet that had altered the fate of an entire world. Beside him, Lieutenant Marco Silva kept a respectful silence, both men lost in their own reflections on the war's toll. As Earth came into view, a pale blue dot filled with hope yet shadowed by the cost of their recent actions, Elias felt a profound mix of relief and burden. They had prevented their own annihilation, but at what cost? The alien world they had attacked was now a smoldering ruin, its people either dead or displaced into the cold expanse of space. "We did what we had to do, didn't we, Captain?" Marco finally broke the silence, his voice unsure. Elias turned to look at him, his face etched with fatigue. "Yes, Marco. We did what we believed was necessary, but now we must face the consequences of those choices. We must help rebuild, not just our world, but those we've harmed." The Vanguard docked at the International Space Station, where a delegation from Earth awaited their return. The air was thick with a cocktail of triumph and tragedy. News crews from around the world broadcasted the homecoming live, the Earth's population eager to see the heroes of the war. General Ramirez was the first to greet Elias as he disembarked. Her handshake was firm, her eyes searching his. "You've saved us, Elias, but I know the victory is bittersweet." Elias nodded, accepting her gratitude with a heavy heart. "Thank you, General. It's time now to focus on peace." The following weeks were a whirlwind of parades and debriefings, the heroes of the war celebrated across the globe. Yet Elias found no joy in the festivities. He worked tirelessly behind the scenes, advocating for a massive relief effort to aid the surviving aliens, many of whom had fled their destroyed planet. Amidst the political debates and planning sessions, Elias was invited to speak at the United Nations, where he delivered a speech that would resonate around the world. Standing before the assembly, he shared not only the tactical victories, but also the moral challenges they faced. "Ladies and gentlemen, the war is over, but our responsibility is not," Elias addressed the gathered leaders. "We have shown that humanity can defend itself, yes, but at what cost? Let us now show that we can also heal, reconcile, and rebuild. His words stirred a global movement. Funds were raised and technology was shared. Human teams were dispatched to help rebuild the alien societies, an effort that slowly bridged the gap between former enemies. Months turned into years, and the scars of war began to heal. The solar system was quieter, but the stories of what happened, a war that nearly ended humanity and devastated another civilization, were passed down, a solemn reminder of the past. Elias eventually retired from his military career, settling down to write a book about his experiences. He focused on the lessons learned, the importance of empathy and understanding even amidst conflict. His book became a cornerstone in military academies and peace studies programs worldwide. Looking out from his study window on Earth, Elias often watched the stars, pondering the vastness of the universe. Humanity had ventured into the cosmos powered by ambition and survival instinct, but they had learned something greater: humility and the importance of stewardship. As he penned the final chapter of his book, Elias reflected on their journey, a mix of pride and sorrow coloring his narrative. "We ventured into the cosmos as warriors seeking safety," he wrote, "and returned as guardians of life's fragility. May this be the legacy we leave for future generations." And with that, he set down his pen, the quiet of his study enveloping him, the stars outside whispering the promise of a more hopeful future.